Hey guys, welcome back to Ingo's Restorations. So today we're going to be putting a new drive shaft on the 1985 318i, the E30. It's broken the U-joints here in the back. The ones that, when I take it off, I'll show you. These have broken. It's more of an original style drive shaft. So they can't be just replace the U-joints, but on these newer ones now that Dorman's rebuilding, apparently you can take these off and replace them. But so yeah, so let's get started on that and start getting the old drive shaft off, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so I have already dropped the exhaust system on this car, and I'm going to show you the next few steps you need to do. So you've got two heat shields. You've got this one here, this larger one here, that needs to be taken out, and then there's the one over here by the fuel tank that needs to be taken out. So you can see there's 4 bolts right there that need to come off, and then you've got another 2 more right there, and looks like, yep, you're going to have to see if I can show you this. So this bar needs to come off too, because this heat shield goes above it. So you've got 3 bolts on each side, 3 bolts over here, and so that comes off. This heat shield will come off, and that we've got what, 1, 2, looks like 4 bolts that hold this heat shield in here. So let's go ahead and get those off so we can access the drive shaft. Alright guys, we've got those shields off, so now you can see the drive shaft. You gotta be real careful with this here. You got lines coming in between the 2 tanks. Make sure that we don't do any damage there for sure. So the next step is going to be to take those 3 bolts. Sorry about that. So they got these 3 bolts here that need to be taken off. That will disconnect you from the front. And then I'm going to do, the book says to go ahead and do these 2 for the rear, for the center, I'm sorry. But I think I'm going to leave these on just to hold the weight. And then you need to loosen this collar up right here, so it will slide a little bit. So we'll see what that's all about. I'm not quite sure, but it's stating we need to go ahead and loosen these up. And then the last thing is going to be to go ahead and take the bolts off the back there. I'll show you that in a little bit better in a bit. So first step we're going to go ahead and do is get these guys off of here, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, we've got these 3 bolts off. One thing I did forget to mention is you need to, when you lift the car up, you got to make sure you're off the ground, because you're going to have to be able to, you need to be able to turn the drive shaft. This car is stick, so it's not so bad. If not, you'd have to put it in neutral, but you got to be able to turn it so you can get to the bolts. If not, it'll make it a little bit more difficult. So let's see if I can show you here. So these are the next set of bolts that need to be taken off. And then all we've got left is the middle. I don't know if you can see that a little bit. Once we get it out, I'll show you a little bit better, but these are the next ones that need to come off. And then all we've got is the center. Alright guys, I've got got these 4 nuts. There's 4 nuts here, so they're all off. One thing I did not mention that for me is not going to be the issue, but let's say you're taking off this drive shaft, and just because you're going to do something else, you're going to drop the transmission or something like that. You're going to want to mark, where this drive shaft was, so that it goes back in the same place, either with a punch or some kind of marker or something like that, so it ends up in the exact same location. It'll make it a little bit easier as far as the balancing is concerned. So I would try to keep it in the exact same place. In this scenario, you know, we're changing the whole thing out, so that's not gonna be an issue. So those are off, the fronts are off, the backs are off. Now I'm going to go ahead and take off the center, try to drop it down in the middle and pull it out, and let's see how that goes. I'll show you in a minute. Alright guys, so you can see the old one is out and I have it next to the new one. Just wanted to point out just a couple of things so we can be clear on how everything's working out here. So this section right here is what hooks up to your transmission. You have the 3 bolts that go into here, so this is what goes into the transmission, this side. And you can see that the this particular drive shaft is actually 2 pieces. You can see it's actually, this is the shaft and it splines into this section right here. This is the center bearing. It's a rubber bearing on here that kind of holds it steady in the middle of the drive shaft while it's spinning. You can see the one he had, it's all messed up. It's no good. So that was one of the issues that we were having. Just to let you know also, you're going to have to loosen this collar up. This has to get loosened so that it can slide. You can see the difference of how much is slid out here and how much it's slid out here. We'll have to move it a little bit, but I'm not going to move it now until I get it up installed. And then let's see if I can show you this without the light messing everything up. You can see this here. You can see how bad his U-joints were. Pretty bad shape. They were broken. All right, so let's go ahead and get it installed. Just another note before actually I get this put in. If your drive shaft is like mine, if you get a new one that is, it will come with these bolts out of it, not actually installed. So what I ended up doing was put a little bit of lubricant on here. I put this larger nut on here, and then I put the one that fits it and kind of just squeezed it together just enough so that the splines, I don't know if you can see those splines right there, just enough for the splines to get inside here so this won't turn anymore. It also has one side that it has to face. It has a flat side that goes up against this wall right here, so it should only really go in one way, and that'll hold it from spinning. That's why they have that there. But yeah, I got that in there now. I figured it's easier to do that while it's out here than try to mess with it underneath the car. So if you get a new one and you've got those, you're gonna have to do that too. Alrighty, let's get installed. Well, I keep forgetting a few things here. So before you get the shaft into the car, you might want to put a little bit of grease on the shaft on the transmission side. This is the grease that I use. I like it a lot, the Lucas extra heavy duty grease. So the shaft that goes in here that's sticking out of the transmission, I just put a little light coat and it'll go inside of here just to kind of get a little bit lubricated so it doesn't corrode or anything like that, and it'll make the install a little bit easier. The other thing is, remember to loosen up this collar nut here, so when you need to separate this and move it, it'll move without any issues, and then you'll have to tighten this up after you get done. So now let's see if I can get this in there without any other delays. Alright guys, finally got it in here. So it's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So what I did was I installed it on this end here first, putting it into the spline, and then I left this center part here dangling, and I put it in this section over here. Put it up in there, got the four bolts lined up in there, so they're inside the holes. I had this moved out a little bit as it's supposed to. On the spline here, this slid out. This is still loose. So what I'm going to do now is going to tighten the nuts on here. And by the way, according to Bentley, you are not supposed to reuse the self-locking nuts. So you're supposed to put new ones on there. So we'll be using new ones on there. And the same thing on this side. And you got to be a little bit careful with this side, because you can see that there's this rubber bushing here between the two. So when you go to tighten down the nuts on here, make sure you have a wrench on this other side to hold it steady, and then tighten it down too. There is torque specifications. This one probably wouldn't be too hard. It's not very high. It's like 50 foot-pounds, something like that. You can look it up in the book. But I'm going to use the German spec for both sides of these, which, if you don't know what German spec, it's good and tight. So we'll be doing that on both sides. My boys are probably saying right now that's a dad joke, but that's okay. And then once you get the front and the rear tightened up, then what you're going to want to do is there's a procedure for this guy right here. So where it's resting, so when everything gets tightened up and this ends up resting, without any movement, they want you to preload it, to slide it a little bit forward, and that's what the book is showing, just to give it a little bit of preload on it. So this is just like a little rubber bushing here. So we'll have to, I'll look at the instructions again and see exactly how it's supposed to be done, and then you tighten this up, and then after that you tighten that up. So that's it. And once you get that done, you can put your heat shields and your exhaust back on here, and you'll be all done. So hopefully that helps you out. Bye. Alright guys, I told you I would let you know about this last center bearing that was here. So what the book is requiring for you to do is when you've got everything tightened up on both sides, the resting position of this, they want you to move it forward like about 4 to 6 centimeters. So just give it a little bit of a movement forward and then tighten down the screws. So that's what you need to do with this particular little rubber bearing here, the center bearing. So that will take care of that, and that's it. You've got all the bolts tightened up. Actually I forgot. Then once you get that done, you're going to want to tighten this collar down. It doesn't have to be super tight, just kind of snug. I think it's like 17 foot-pounds is what it was. It's pretty. Just get it nice and snug, and that should take care of that. Then you've got your heat shields to put on and your exhaust to put on, and that'll take care of this installation. Well, hopefully that helps you guys out.